Welcome all to 5 Minutes with Kerusso. I'm Whitney. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today. So, today is Good Friday, which is a day many people use to reflect on Jesus' death and sacrifice. So, I thought I would pull a verse from the story of Jesus' death. And there's one in particular that really resonated with me. So, if you don't mind, I'd love to share it with you. So I'm in Mark chapter 15, which is one of the accounts of the death of Jesus. And in this chapter, Jesus is presented to Pilate, who gives him over to the Jews and sentences him to death. Then he is flogged, stripped, beaten, paraded through the streets carrying a cross, and is crucified. And then we get to verse 33. And this is where it starts to get into the actual death. And in 33, it says, "At the 6th hour, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour." So at least 3 hours he had been hanging there. "And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,' which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And this is a really dramatic moment in this story, not a few verses longer than that, and he passes away. And what stood out to me about this passage was that throughout the chapters leading up to Jesus' death, he was constantly talking to his disciples about the fact that he was gonna die. He knew it was coming, and he tried to prepare them so they could expect it. So it's not like he went into this blind. He was in on the plan. He trusted his Father, and he knew what was going to happen. He knew that he was the key to redeeming all of humanity. So he knew he was going to have to die. But more importantly, he also knew that in 3 days he was going to be raised to life again. But despite that, in this moment, we still see him in this desperate action of crying out in pain and agony and loneliness, because in the moment he feels like his father's abandoned him, regardless of whether or not he actually has. And that is definitely interesting to me. That stands out to me because this is kind of a direct example of the fact that oftentimes what we know to be true and the way that we feel in the moment don't always align. I've had to be told so many times, trust what you know to be true. Don't just get wrapped up in the negative feelings that you feel soaked in right now. And it's hard. It's hard for me to remember that. I need to trust what I know. But for me, this was kind of a comfort to see that even though Jesus knew he was going to be alive in 3 days, in this moment, he still felt alone and in pain and sad and dejected. And that's the feeling that he was expressing. And there's even another instance of this in the Bible, over in John 11, where it tells us the story of Lazarus' death. Jesus hears Lazarus is sick, grabs his disciples, and goes to visit. And the whole time is talking about how he knows that Lazarus is dead, but not to worry because he's going to bring him back. He knew what was going to happen. But as soon as he gets there and sees everybody else around weeping at the loss of this man, it says, when Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And then in verse 35, it says Jesus wept. He knew Lazarus was going to be up and walking around in 5 minutes tops? But that didn't stop him from feeling what he needed to feel in that moment. And I find a lot of comfort in that. And I hope we can take some inspiration from that to remember that despite what we know, sometimes you just need to feel. Sometimes you just need to say, okay, I know it's going to be all right, but I need to go lock myself in a room and I just need to cry with a cup of tea. Now, that being said, Jesus never loses hope. Jesus does trust his Father. He does trust God. He trusts the plan. He trusts that everything will turn out all right and that death will be conquered. So like I know I need to trust what I know in the moment when it's hard to see past the feelings. It's okay to make room to feel all the negative emotion that you need. And never lose hope. Never forget that it'll be all right, and trust that God will take care of you. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today, and I'll see you next time.